The Lost Realm is a deluxe expansion for The Lord of the Rings, the card game by Fantasy Flight Games. This is one of the deluxe expansions, so it comes in a box as opposed to other smaller expansions that come in plastic blisters. It contains 2 heroes, several other cards that you can add to your decks, and scenarios, 3 scenarios that can be played independently. They have different levels of difficulty, or can also be played in order, as you probably will want to do, and in that case they form a storyline. Also, the Lost Realm is a necessary element to play one of the storylines created by the small expansions. That storyline is called Angmar Awakened. There are 6 small expansions, and you need the basic game and the Lost Realm to play that other one. Today we're going to talk about this, but then I also just realized that I never reviewed the basic game, the base game of The Lord of the Rings, the card game. It's from a couple of years ago, it was very successful, there's a lot of material out there. I think most board gamers already know about it, so I don't know that I'll film a video about that to cover the base game, but in case you're curious, in case you want to hear my take, let me know, and then maybe I'll consider covering just the standard, the core set. But today we talk about the Lost Realm. Let's have a look at some of the cards that you get with the Lost Realm expansion. First, the heroes. Everybody wants to know about those. This hero, very good one, a great multitasker, because when you're engaged with an enemy, he does not exhaust to commit to a quest. Fighting monsters with one hand, questing with the other, that's some impressive stuff. Or you may optionally engage with one additional enemy during the encounter phase, but trust me, the multitasking is really good. Aragorn, really tough guy, good stats overall, of course, plus when engaged with an enemy, the enemy gets -1 defense, and also when he participates in an attack that destroys an enemy, he can engage with another enemy. Really badass. That's as simple as that. Then we have this ally here, of which you get 3 copies. The Ranger of the North, excellent values. Plus, when revealed, also you get a special thing. You may deal 2 damage to an enemy or place 2 progress tokens on a location. A lot of other things here arranged. I mean, it's amazing, right? But look at the back. Here's the kicker. This is not a card that goes in your personal deck. It is a card that goes into the encounter decks. And what goes into your personal deck is the signal card. The signal card, when you play it, allows you to shuffle one of your set-aside Rangers of the North with the encounter keyword into the encounter deck. So later, when you're desperate, the worst stuff ever is coming out on the encounter deck, it is really a nice break when one of these people that thematically you summoned earlier, you called earlier, finally show up in the middle of the action, bam, bam, deals damage around. It's really neat stuff. It's really fun. There's also this other ally here, which is related to this mini engine here, the Signal and the Ranger of the North engine. It's a decent ally, one of these weaker allies that you get early on to throw under the bus. But actually, before you feed him to the monsters, there's also this other thing that he can do. After he enters play, you search the top 5 cards of your deck for a signal card. So it increases your chances of getting this card, which in turn improves your chances of getting this card into the encounter deck. Nice little engine here. Other cards of the same family, another one here, really good one, the Hair of Volendale. You attach it to a hero and you exhaust the card to reduce the cost of a Dunedain ally that you pay for this phase. Less expensive. This is a nice ally, especially given the cost, but it looks for trouble because after he enters play, you need to look for an enemy and engage that enemy. Then we have just a very strong ally, simple as that, pretty expensive, but with good stats, and also with this advantage here. Very important, oh my gosh, healing, so useful. This card here, when attached to a specific type of hero, Later you can exhaust the hero, you can discard it, and you get all damage out of a character. So you just assign a lot of damage to a character, and the character is almost dead, and then boom. Excellent card. This also is a pretty neat card. Look at the cost, and it allows you to, after you engage an enemy, exhaust a scout or a ranger to place X progress tokens on a location. X is the engage enemy's printed threat. So if you are in a pinch and you need to progress to the next location fast, this is an excellent card. Then we have the Star Brooch. You attack it to a hero and it improves the will of the hero. Now this is a really neat card. It's a new type of card that appears in this expansion and none before. It's the side quest card, and some of these side quests are cards that you can place in your own deck, such as this one, so it gives you resources, gives an extra challenge, but also extra possibility of scoring points. But also there will be side quests in the encounter deck, so in some scenarios you are going for your little objective and you're so happy and that's so easy, and then side quests pop up challenging you to do other things, so making things more varied and presenting precisely what side quests are in video games. Other ways of scoring points, other ways of looking for trouble, achieving resources, slaughtering enemies, and so on and so forth. This is a side quest that goes into your personal deck if you elect to have it. And what it does is that after the stage is defeated, by placing the corresponding number of progress points on it, each player may search their deck for a card and add it to their hand, and then everybody shuffles their deck. So the side quest is a great new thing that, if you see it here, well, it's interesting, but not that big. But what it really does, what really is interesting is that it gives more variety, more unpredictability to the quests, to the scenarios. Even if you played a certain scenario several times and you already know the order in which the cards are in the scenario, the order of the challenge, I'm talking about the scenario, the quest cards, well, then the side quests may come out in different ways, may not come out at all. And that adds more variety and replay value to the structure, to the plot of a scenario. We have an objective ally, a guy that will show up in some of the scenarios. It's good to have him. If not, of course, you need to be extra careful with him, because if he leaves play, then the players lose the game. So more of a worry than anything else, really. Now, we got to talk about the encounter decks. We should talk about the encounter deck briefly. I'll be a little vague in general, so you don't have too many spoilers. But if I talk about the encounter deck and the missions and the scenarios, which I want to do. Some of you will want to know about that. Also, I'm giving you at least some minor spoilers. At least I'm going to talk about the theme, what happens in general terms in those scenarios. So if you do not want to have any spoilers at all about what's in the scenarios, just stop watching here and try and go to the conclusions where there may be some very minor spoilers. Who knows? But at least there will not be as many as here. But really minor stuff. Pretty much what I'm going to talk about is stuff that you can just see. If you own the copy and you open the box and you're sorting the components, you get a sense of the kind of monsters that you will fight. You'll get a sense of the kind of challenges. And that's pretty much what I'm going to tell you now. So it's a disclaimer. Maybe I'm making it sound like much worse than it is. Now, for those of us who do not mind knowing in general terms what's in the scenarios, so you may make a better decisions when deciding whether to purchase this set or not. The scenarios. There are 3 scenarios in this expansion. They are interlinked in a story, so it is recommended that you play them in a specific order. In the first scenario, it seems like standard stuff. You have to stop a war party of orcs. These orcs are always looking for trouble. The locals are a little surprised because the orcs seem to be a little more daring, a little more self-confident than usual. So you are looking for this large war party that you need to place in the staging area at the beginning of the game. It's pretty big, so you probably will not want to destroy it immediately, but also you do not want to wait for too long. So you need to find the right time, give yourself enough time to build allies and travel through locations and that will come out of the encounter deck until you're ready to face the orc party. Side quests may happen as you do that. It's a pretty straightforward thing, but I think the game does a good job of simulating the idea of traveling through locations, because you're going through locations, questing, so you have the sense that you're following this party that's always inside, always slightly ahead of you. You could attack it at any moment, but you're waiting for the right time. I think it's a simple way, but an effective one, in which the game system captures the theme of hunting this ward party. Now, after you catch them and you destroy them at the end of scenario 1, in scenario 2 you continue your investigations about these orcs. What the heck are they doing here? And, well, strange stuff starts happening. As you are following the last remnants of the groups of orcs that are scattered among the hills, the weather starts turning particularly bad, unusually so. And you start wondering if there is something not quite right going on. If there's something supernatural. Have the orcs align themselves with some supernatural forces? Well, you probably can guess the answer. But the point is that in this second scenario, as you can see from the symbols of the cards that will go in that scenario, the weather plays a role. There are some events related to particularly suspiciously bad weather that will cause a lot of grief to your party members. As you are hunting down these last orcs, you will also need to find the place where they are hiding. You will need to find the fort where they are hiding. And that is the mission of this scenario. Complete your hunt for the orcs in conditions that are now thematically much harsher, and also in gameplay terms more challenging, because you also have the weather now to worry about. Now the big grand finale, the scenario that is the big surprise. So again, if you do not want to know anything, please make sure that you stop watching now. When you finally reach the area where the orcs are, and you realize that they are indeed dealing with some dark supernatural stuff, all hell breaks loose. Literally, as the dead start coming out of the tombs, and you're attacked by undead enemies. And this is the first scenario was about traveling. If the first scenario was about traveling fast, the third is about fighting. It's about destroying hordes of undead until you get to meet with the big bad guy. I'm gonna show it to you. If you might want spoilers, close your eyes. There's the big bad guy. Whoop, real fast. The art is really neat. I really like him. You see also the stats, but who knows? He has some interesting abilities and powers that shall not be revealed. Unless you rewind this video and you pause when I show the entire card, of course. Really neat, and some really cool, some really impressive art and the part of the deck that has to do with these bad people. They're trying to destroy you, and that you have to try to destroy before they do. Very atmospheric art. Look at this nice art for this location. Really, the art contributes quite a bit to give you the sense of this grim situation of this attack from the armies of the dead. It's a very good expansion. What I like about it is that the new heroes are fun and interesting, and some of the new effects are very fun too. I like the side quests. I really think that they add variety to the experience by mixing things up more than the standard quest cards do. And then the scenarios are really solid scenarios, and they have a very different flavor from one another. In the first scenario, you are the hunter, and you are trying to decide when it is the right time to attack the opponent, to launch your massive attack. You want to wait for long enough until you have enough resources, but the longer you wait, well, the closer you get to the maximum threat that you can absorb. But also, most importantly, bad stuff may happen. Some of the side quests that come out may be very unpleasant. Other unpleasant stuff may come out, and maybe then at the point you'll regret waiting for too long. So you're there trying to look for the right moment, but you really get the sense that you're burning through locations, you're running after the party. It's incredibly thematic. The second scenario apparently feels a little bit like the first one thematically. You are hunting down the remnants of the group that you attacked in the first scenario. You're hunting down small groups of enemies. You have to look around the hills, go a little bit of peekaboo and see where they are. But yeah, even as enemies, they're not as weak as you expect, because when they get desperate, then they may have a couple of sleeves or tricks up their sleeve that may still be able to surprise you and inflict some pain. No detail there, so I don't spoil things for you. But what is very important and very interesting, and what really gives the game a different flavor, the scenario a different flavor, is the punishing, mysteriously, disturbingly effective, disturbingly devastating weather. So you're like, I'm taking so much damage from this weather. Yes, there's no way this is natural. There's some new supernatural evil that is manifesting itself into this incredibly devastating weather. And so now, how does this change the flavor of the scenario? It changes in the fact that now it's not about waiting for the right moment. It's just about rushing through the scenario as fast as you can, desperately, so that you can hunt down the enemies and solve the mystery and reach your objectives before all of your characters die of exposure. There's no gain here in doing anything but rushing towards the end of the scenario. And the third scenario is completely different, because this time you do not have much of a sense of really a journey. Yes, you can still do the travel action, but the story is really a siege. You feel besieged by hordes of monsters that are coming, and they're very tough and they're very powerful. They all feel like everybody that shows up feels like belongs in a boss battle. And that's not the boss battle. After you fought all these boss battles, you realize that these guys were not the bosses, but the henchmen, and the real boss comes out. So it is about fighting off waves of enemies until finally the big bad guy shows up, and then there will be more bloodshed, your blood mainly, until you figure out how to defeat this bad guy. So that's a combat-oriented scenario with its own unique personality, very thematic, very atmospheric, with a lot of flavor thanks to the theme and thanks to the art, which is very evocative. In general, the art in this. And the game in general is very good in this expansion, does not disappoint at all. So you have three scenarios that are fun to play, different from one another, but a caveat for some, and a good thing for others, these scenarios are very tough. They're pretty challenging, they're very hard. Especially if you're a new player, but even experienced players, they will find some challenges here, which is a good thing for most players. If you find embarrassed, if you find uncomfortable with the level of difficulty, then the game itself has a way of playing it in an easier mode. The rules explain what are the cards that you need to remove to make things a little easier for you, acknowledging therefore that the game can be pretty hard. There are ways of making it harder if you so wish, but in general there is this element here that this is a tough challenge, which is good. Games, solitaire or cooperative games that you play and you always win, then there is no interest. Here there is a good challenge and ways of easily tweaking the level of complexity, calibrating the level of complexity of the game to your liking in ways that are very easy to implement and very effective. Lots of new cards, a lot of nice effects, a lot of good challenges. Definitely a strong expansion. The Lost Realm, an expansion, deluxe expansion for the Lord of the Rings, the card game. And also the stepping stone to the Angmar Awakened cycle of shorter expansions, which I'll play soon, maybe later this weekend, maybe next week, but I'm planning to play that cycle of expansion soon, and as soon as I do, there will be a video about that cycle of expansions. For today, I can tell you the Lost Realm is a very strong expansion, highly recommended to anybody who already is a fan of Lord of the Rings, the card game.